So I guess in the outdoors, an adventure, we use the word a lot, but it means something different to everybody. It can be, doing big mountains or ocean rowing or just getting out in the local park close to home. How would you define it? What does it mean to you?
I think adventure to me is pushing my comfort zone, and that means really different things at different times in my life. At some point, that's been going and climbing, mountains and going to kind of far-flung places that really excite me and feel really remote. And on other days, that has been much smaller. For example, that's the cold water swimming, and all started because I was at a point where I actually didn't have the capacity sort of physically or mentally at the time to get out and do really big adventures. So I was thinking, how can I find adventure? How can I like push myself out of my comfort zone in a nice way? But with this kind of limited time and also energy. And that's kind of how I initially got into the cold water dipping. It was just like, well, I'm not really a swimmer. I didn't really like swimming at school. But I was quite tempted by the fact that it wasn't in a pool and it was a river. And me and a friend just made a pact to go in, and didn't matter whether we went up to like our knees, our waist, we were just going to try and get in like twice a week. Yeah, then the kind of obsession grew from there really on that front. I just think it's different for everyone, but for me it's just pushing my comfort zone and stretching myself in what I find to be a fun way. A lot question it sometimes.
Yeah. Fantastic. I think we all have those kind of thoughts of why am I doing this and what's this all about? And then you get back and then you just want to do more and more of it.
Yeah, definitely.
And I guess on that note, of course, last year, and this year, kind of so far, we've had lots of challenges and it's been a very uncertain time. And I think when we're in the outdoors and on these big adventures, we learn a lot about ourselves. We learn a lot about resilience. And I think that can really help us in our kind of, everyday lives. And is there anything that you think you particularly learned from your adventures that's kind of helped you recently? Any particular tips or sort of strategies that have really stood out to you?
I think definitely, like you talked about resilience at the beginning. I think when I've gone, whether it's a climbing trip, bike packing, whatever you're doing, there's a certain amount of you that knows the unpredictable is going to happen. You can't control the weather. There are all these things that you can't control, but you prepare as best you can, and then you make sensible decisions like as a result of that. And I guess maybe not, it wasn't an initial strategy, but something that I've learned over the past year is to try and not embrace the uncertainty, because I think for me that's really hard. I'm a planner, but to try and take that same approach that I would like on a big day out in the hills or the mountains, and say, these things I like properly can't control, no matter how much I want to, no matter how much I would like to influence them. I'd like to make them more certain. I can't, and I'm going to have to like park them there for there. But these other things I can influence. And it's the biggest learning curve for me, and trying to kind of put that outdoor mindset to sort of 2020 life, was trying to let go, or not let go, but at least not give myself a hard time on the uncontrollables, and try and just, even if they weren't, pleasant or my favorite, just leave them there and be like, that is that. You can't worry about it for now. Like, try and do something with what you've got and your resource and whatever level that is. On lockdown one, there certainly felt a huge amount of pressure to, write a best-selling novel, create a film, become the fittest you've ever been, also become a master of sourdough. I think you have to sort of put all that to one side and just work on a day-to-day basis with what you've got.
Great advice. And yeah, it's so true. I think just the ability to spend our energy where we can on the positive things rather than what's going on and there's all this bad news around us is really important. And yeah, I think in lockdown one, we made a lot of banana bread and we did all these home workouts. And this time round, it's just, even if we can stay healthy, I think is a great success. So I guess on on that note, obviously mental health wise, I know you've obviously done a lot of work in terms of, the science behind that and the outdoors and the power of that. What kind of got you interested in that? And is there anything you found from that that's really surprised you or interested you?
So much. I first got into, so Women in Adventure, which we mentioned at the start, is an independent research company I run. And essentially I got into that way back in 2016 because I was curious. I just wanted to know the answers to certain questions in the outdoors, mainly surrounding women at that point in time, whether women prefer female-only groups or what barriers to participation were. You know, as a scientist at heart, I just wanted to learn more. And what came out through those first surveys, and the big theme, whatever I asked, mental well-being and how the outdoors made us feel, just seemed to be woven into everyone's responses. It didn't really matter what the kind of headline topic was, it always came in somewhere. So then that kind of drove and inspired me to do a survey that was specifically on mental well-being in the outdoors. And yeah, the results from that were just fascinating. I think the top like headline statistic, so to speak, was that 99.6% of women agreed that the outdoors was good for their mental well-being. I was initially going to round everything up, and then I realized it'd be 100, and I thought everyone would think it was rigged. But underneath that, there was so much. The breadth of the sports that chose to, or that people spoke about, and then also the way that different sports influence well-being. That was absolutely fascinating. So without kind of going into like loads of detail on kind of the data side, there are different sort of types of well-being. So for example, mountaineers had particularly high scores for worthwhile, for kind of seeing the things they do in life to be worthwhile. Whereas surfers had, you know, lower anxiety and high levels of happiness. It was just fascinating to see all the different kind of trends within the sports. And then also maybe start to think and put together like why that might be the case. Yeah, as always with research, I kind of went in with 100 questions and came out with 100 more, but it's absolutely fascinating.
I'm sure it was. And I guess from that, you know, are there any kind of major barriers that you see at the moment that still exist, you know, in terms of engagement and people actually being able to access the outdoors for their mental health?
I think there's a huge amount we can all do, and I think barriers is quite nuanced in the sense of, you know, there are many different barriers and they are different for different groups. However, I think the one thing we all can do is like inspire and encourage others to get outside, whether they're outdoorsy or not. It's kind of taking someone and showing them what you love, and that's inspiring, and that helps take down so many barriers, because you'll have more knowledge than you realize, and actually by transferring that and just taking the first step to help someone else, you might not know all the barriers for them, but at least you're kind of engaging in a conversation or showing them something, and, you know, on an individual level, helping them take that first step, because sometimes the first step is the hardest bit. I've certainly found that during lockdown on the kind of grey, rainy, very January days. You know, you do know the outside is good for you, and you do know you're going to feel a hell of a lot better afterwards. But yeah, sometimes getting over that threshold is requires a bit of a kind of shove.
It does, doesn't it? That first step is always the hardest, I find, as well. And yeah, especially this time around with the dark nights and the cold, it's like it can take you longer just to talk yourself out the door. And even though you know it's going to help. And I guess on that question, you know, what sort of tips would you give to people that if they're struggling to obviously motivate themselves, and if they're struggling to get out and do stuff? And I think it's easy for some people because, well, you know, it's easier because they might live, you know, in a rural area, there's more outdoor spaces, whereas it's difficult in a city. People, you know, are anxious about things and maybe don't have the same access. And I guess what sort of tips have helped you to actually stay active, you know, during this time, really?
I think taking the pressure off. If you're struggling to get out, take the pressure off. Just like put your trainers, put your kit on. Just, you know, like entertain the idea of going out. Lower the expectation in terms of this doesn't have to be a personal best. It might not be the best adventure you've had to date. It might be, you know, something you feel like you've done 100 times before, but like just like ease in, give it the first 10 minutes, head out. And if you're having a really bad day and it just isn't working, at least you've kind of gone and tried for a little bit. I think as well, something I've done is try, I think this was inspired by Ruth Allen, White Peak Ruth on Instagram. She has got a fantastic channel in terms of inspiring me to have a look for nature everywhere, whether that's, you know, literally the house plant in my office, or the, you know, the little things, and actually going out and making a really concerted effort on those days where you're not going to do something, you don't feel like pushing yourself, but finding another way to experience the outdoors in whatever sense that is. It sounds cheesy, but even if it's like cloud gazing, or, you know, just sitting somewhere for 10 minutes, just breathing in the fresh air, I think no matter how small it is, it's definitely worth giving it a go.
I think for sure, especially, you know, especially recently, I think it's quite a positive thing that we've been able to appreciate the small things and that sense of actually enjoying our areas just nearby, even if it's doing the same walk we've been doing every day for a few months. I think being more aware and actually mindful of that is a really positive thing. And as much as I'm sure people are itching to get to the hills and, you know, go, you know, further and farther afield, that's something I think all of us have really enjoyed, and people have been doing, you know, a lot more walking, and hopefully that's something that we can kind of, you know, to build on as a habit as well, just for everyone's health and well-being. Yeah. I'd love to know as well about the project. There's your one run as well. I read about that, and you had about 15,000 people involved. So yeah, clearly you managed to get a lot of people excited and passionate about something. That's something that, you know, of course, we are quite, I mean, a small organization, we're quite new, but we're obviously trying to reach as many people as we can. And so how did that all start? Because we'd love to know, really.
So One Run was founded by Danny Bent and James Hay, and they asked me to join the team to do kind of operations and logistics organising. And so we were working on this concept of having an event that every human could be part of. And it was held on Human Rights Day, 10th of December. And we wanted to show the world that love is a human right and no one should be hated for who they are. You know, after the year we've all had, we just thought we want to bring everyone together in a huge celebration of humanity and essentially unite the world. And I think quite a lot of, even my friends like laughed. They were like, every country. And I'm like, yeah, every country by UN definition. And so that kind of started by just going through different running communities that we knew, reaching out through different like media, press and media throughout the world. And then actually when it came to like the super niche countries, like, you know, there's a place called Nauru, which is like the least visited island in the world. It was a case of trying to find any sort of outdoorsy or active community, or just even reaching out to people and saying, you know, do you know anyone in this area that would love to take part? And actually, it was incredible. I think we're the first sporting event to have participants in every single country. We even had South Sudan, North Korea. Strangely, the last country was San Marino, which I was really surprised with all of the kind of different places we had. I wouldn't have thought it would have been kind of one within Europe, but they are only tiny, so we'll like let them get away with that. It's so inspiring to see everyone come together. And yes, we weren't all in the same place, but essentially people started running at 7 o'clock their local time. And what that did is you ran at 7 o'clock, moved whatever way we were able for an hour. And then the next, you kind of always passed the sort of mental baton onto the next time zones of countries who then all started to move. So it was really, really heartwarming to see all these images coming in from everywhere in the world. And just, yeah, it really did end the year on the high for me.
Yeah, it's just amazing to see that actually people can still feel part of something, and it brings people together. And I think something we need a lot more of nowadays is being able to bring people together in that spirit of the outdoors. And yeah, fantastic. And especially to get all those places around the world as well is amazing.
My geography got so much better.
I bet, yeah. I mean, it's certainly a quick way to learn more, because I bet there's a lot of places that we've never even heard of. I guess on that note, obviously that's been all, you know, that project's been all around the world. And, you know, it seems obviously you've been on a few places around the world on various, you know, bike challenges and adventures. And I guess, and this is always the kind of probably the, you know, the hardest thing to ask is, have you got a favorite outdoor experience from all of that time that you could share with us?
I'll go for one that's in my head at the minute, because I don't think I can pick a solid favorite and commit. But sort of this time last year, I went out to Kazakhstan to do some ski touring. That was just incredible. We were in a hut on the eastern edge near Siberia, and you're kind of hours and hours from anywhere. It was so beautifully quiet to just be able to spend time in the mountains. And yeah, the skiing wasn't, it wasn't particularly gnarly or hardcore. It was just stunning. I just absolutely loved it. It's nice to think back, because that was about a year ago, and it's nice to think back of the sense of peace that trip brought me. It was kind of that super exhilarating. You're still trying really hard. You're still kind of end each day absolutely knackered. But I really enjoyed the simplicity of my time on that trip, because you've also got like no power and limited water and stuff. So, or you melt the snow.
Is there a favourite like outdoor activity, actually near to home during, the last, well, obviously now on lockdown 3, is there one kind of favourite spot you've been going to?
I love my swimming. I really like my swimming. I think it's always different. I say swim, I definitely dip, like I don't think I even get my 100-meter badge for what I do. But yeah, I really love that. And then I'm lucky enough to be near Lady Bow Reservoir and Win Hill, and that's Sheffield folk who are in this will know there. And I love the view. It's my favourite hill, so it's a joy to be near it and be able to go up it, even if I'm incredibly out of puff doing that.
It's a special spot. We have actually got a walk plan there at some point soon, so hopefully we can get back to that as soon as we can. And on the cold water, I know I've got friends here on the call who are really into that. I see their pictures of them jumping in the sea in ridiculously cold weather, and I think they're absolutely balmy. What is it about the cold water then? Can you describe that for those of us who just can't bear the thought of it?
For me, like a lot of the sports I do, I like to push myself and I like to try really hard. And I like that with the swimming, my aim is just to get in, and I don't want to offend people for who it's different. For me, it's almost pointless. I'm not doing it for like a time. I'm not doing it for a temperature. I'm just doing it because I love the surroundings, and I like that for that point in time, all I can concentrate on is how I feel and just getting in. So I like that it kind of strips everything back. I know it's different for everyone, but for me, it's just something I do where I'm not constantly trying to be like better, or I just go in and and the rush afterwards when you get out of cold water. Like obviously, everyone take care if you've not done it before and go about it the right way, but the how you feel afterwards is great.
Sounds amazing. I think I'll wait to the spring personally, but great stuff. Just sort of wrap up, I mean, is there one place that you're most looking forward to able to go once all restrictions have kind of eased off?
This is a tough one, because I think I've literally been accumulating a list of places I really want to go, but I'll keep it general. The sea, like I absolutely love here, but I also love the sea, and I can't wait till I can go to the sea. I don't mind which bit, or if it's far away, or if it's, that would be lovely.
See, hopefully that's not going to be too far away for you. So have you got any kind of, any more plans or projects in the pipeline, or, on hold at the moment?
Yeah, certainly. So One Run, we are just gearing up for One Run 2021. So keep your eyes posted on that front. Women's Trad Festival, we're keeping all fingers crossed. We have to kind of see what's announced and what's occurring, but we're definitely kind of working towards the summer with that. And then on the research side, I've got quite a lot going on. I'm analysing a survey on sustainability at the minute, and also looking to kind of start my next project. So lots of exciting things, and certainly plenty to keep me busy, which is good.
Sounds like it. Yeah, lots to look forward to. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. And yeah, so what's the best way for people to obviously find out more, or follow your next projects and adventures?
If you want to kind of follow my adventures, that's Mud, Chalk and Gears on Instagram. If you want to find out more about either Women in Adventure or Women's Trad Festival One Run, it's either womeninadventure.com, womenstradfestival.co.uk, or onerun.global. I'm pretty easy to find.
Well, let's hope we can send some more people, your way for some more inspiration, and yeah, that's fantastic, and lots to look forward to. So thank you
One
so
other
much,
thing,
Hetty.
if anyone wanted to know more on the results of the survey, then there's a free report available to download on the Women in Adventure website. I realise I touched on that super briefly, but help yourself.
That'd be great. Yeah, Hetty, thank you so much for your time and inspiration. It's been amazing to hear about it. And we've got a few questions. So we've got a first question from Emma. Hetty, is there anybody who inspires you?
I think there are this is a long list. I I think like most directly my friends inspire me a lot, and my dad was a massive inspiration for me. He was a very keen climber and mountaineer. Sadly, we didn't get to climb together because he had Parkinson's and was very poorly man later in life. However, just to be able to have that shared experience, we might not have climbed together, but we got to talk about the same routes or the same walks, same hikes, same hut food at the top. To know that I could have that shared experience with someone that might not be able to come with me, but yeah, that was a huge inspiration for me and still is.
So question from David. At the moment, on any walks, people are avoiding others and distancing as they should be, but this was the opposite pre-COVID. Concerned this will stick. What can we do about this, do you think?
We are allowed to meet one other person at the minute, as and when things expand, whether it's taking someone new to the outdoors or someone that maybe only got into it during lockdown and showing them, once this is kind of in the future, once it's okay to do so, showing them what it was like for all the new people. We've got so many people that have come and joined us and realized the huge benefit of the outdoors. Let's show them how friendly it was before. We're an incredibly friendly bunch.
It certainly is a friendly world, isn't it? Let's hope that we can get back to some kind of safe normality as well. We got from Susanna. Thanks, Susanna. Do you find that older women are equally encouraged to take part in outdoor activities? I'm in my 50s, recently was trolled quite badly because I was promoting it. Now I feel self-conscious about talking about my outdoor activities.
First things first, I'm really sorry to hear you were trolled. I think that's rubbish. Something that I found in the research is actually when I looked at age and mental well-being, the older you get, the better your mental well-being and the more you get to go outdoors. So you're really the one that's winning. I had a really good response rate for the kind of between 45 and 55, right the way up to actually 66 in the survey. Barriers shift and change, and there are different things you face going outside during those times. But especially what we see at Women's Trad Festival is that there are still people getting into it then. We have people at the festival who've never climbed and they might be, 50s, 60s. Age doesn't matter at our event. I think definitely it's good for our well-being, even more so important to keep getting out.
Another question from Michelle. Which areas of the UK do you find inspirational in your search for adventure?
I definitely want to be able to explore more of Scotland. I love maps. I'm like a full-on map geek. I sit for hours with a map, working out where I'm going to go. I have an aim to ride every bridle way in the Peak District, even the esoteric ones, which, I mean, some areas of the White Peak, it's like I don't think anyone's taken a bike down it in years. But I think I've got about West coast of Scotland. I've probably got like 9 different bike packing routes I really want to go and ride when we're allowed. There's loads of Ireland. I feel like I've hardly done anything in Ireland and I want to go do lots. The list is never ending. If anyone needs a route in a random part of the country, the chances are I've probably tried to look for something ready for when we're allowed out again.
I think that list doesn't tend to get much smaller, does it? It just gets
No, never.
So fantastic. I've got time for one more question. Do you have any thoughts on how we can encourage and inspire a younger female to explore and get outdoors?
So throughout my research, it shows that role models are really important. And I think to some extent we can all be those role models. Telling adventure how it is, sharing the experience in whatever capacity that is for you. Like some people love social media, other people would rather not touch it with a barge pole. That's cool. Share what you love, and especially when it comes to like the younger female or younger generation, or even those that are just new, be mindful of the lingo. we pick up so much jargon, even in a brief period. You just do. So be mindful of when you're kind of telling people about stuff, that they're not left completely like bamboozled as to what you mean. And also on the kind of clothing and equipment front, I think giving ideas that are easy to get out and get a flavour of something without having to need everything right away is always good, especially when, I think it applies to whenever you're new to something, but certainly when you're younger, you don't necessarily want to invest in everything. You don't know if it's quite for you. So letting people know what they can, get out and do is, without needing a load of stuff, is really good.
I think that's great, as you say, just to kind of share the things that you love. Great advice. I love that myself. So let's all try and, let's all try not to do the same.
It's been really lovely to chat.